I know how confusing process accounting can be, especially those equivalent units. I have broken down into a simple flow that finally helped me get it. Let's dive into the mechanics.
Imagine stepping onto the floor of a major chocolate factory. You are immediately surrounded by massive vats churning out thousands of gallons of chocolate and conveyor belts pushing out identical bars in a non-stop, perpetual motion. If a company makes custom, unique items, like custom furniture, they use job costing, where it's easy to track the price tag for one specific project. But in continuous mass production, there are no unique jobs. Every product is identical. The machines do not pause at the end of the month just so the accounting department can walk the floor, easily count the candy bars, and add up the receipts. You have to figure out how to assign an accurate dollar value to goods that are constantly in motion. If you can't price a moving target, you can't pass a process costing exam. To solve this, we rely on the foundational rule of process costing. As the physical product moves down the line, the accumulated costs must literally follow it. This flowchart maps the physical journey of the chocolate through three distinct factory departments. First is mixing, where cocoa and sugar are added. Next, it flows into refining to smooth out the texture. Finally, it hits packaging to be wrapped. Organizing the factory floor into these distinct physical zones allows accountants to capture the specific costs incurred at each stage, step by step. When you sit down to an exam problem, your first step is to summarize physical units. You simply count the raw physical inventory, how many items started the process this month, and how many actually finished. But that leaves a glaring problem for step 2. What do you do with the chocolate that is still stuck in the vats, only partially finished when the month ends? You account for it using equivalent units. This is a mathematical concept used to translate partially finished goods into whole numbers. Look at this diagram. We have a grid of 100 chocolate bars, but each one is only 50% complete. If we mathematically squish the contents of those 100 half-finished bars together, they add up to exactly 50 fully finished equivalent units. Converting partial progress into equivalent whole units is how you determine the value of inventory that hasn't left the vat. Step 3 is to summarize total costs. This means gathering up all the financial receipts for what the department spent during the period. Those costs fall into 2 buckets: direct materials, the raw cocoa and sugar, and conversion costs, which is the factory labor and machine overhead required to actually convert those materials into chocolate. Now we have everything we need for step 4, the ultimate goal of the exam problem, calculating the cost per unit. This formula shows the final calculation. You simply take your total costs and divide them by your total equivalent units. Executing these 4 linear steps successfully takes a chaotic, non-stop factory floor and turns it into a solvable, predictable math equation. Let's step off the factory floor and look at the corporate accountant's desk to see why this end-of-month reporting actually matters. On this balance sheet diagram, any chocolate that is not completely finished must legally reside in a category called Work in Process, or WIP, inventory. The fully wrapped, completed chocolate bypasses WIP entirely and moves into a separate category called Finished Goods inventory. Process costing dictates exactly where millions of dollars are parked on a corporation's financial reports. Successfully navigating an exam problem requires a specific sequence of operations. Number 1, summarize physical units. Number 2, calculate equivalent units. Number 3, summarize total costs. Number 4, calculate cost per unit. The calculation for equivalent units is the most critical variable. If this number is wrong, the entire cost per unit equation fails. By anchoring your logic to the continuous flow of the chocolate factory and tracking costs as they move down the line, you can accurately solve any process costing question.